Alright guys, just getting set up here to pour this other bearing. I got all this melted out, cleaned up, I wire wheeled it, brake cleaned it, dried it out. I got that bearing there. It's not 100% done, it's pretty close. So I'm going to do, get backed up here, I'm going to set that crank in there. And I'll probably put some shims in here to raise and lower that crank as I need it. But first I gotta get this crank set in there, get it cleaned up, and then I'm gonna measure from here across down to the crank and make sure it's running square in the case, or as square as it can be. And then we'll get this thing dammed up and get her poured. I got it all melted out of there yesterday, so she's looking pretty good. I'll keep you posted. Alright, we're moving right along here. I got this crankshaft sooted up. Got it sitting in its little cradle I made. And I tilted it back a little bit like that because this crank has some pitting in it, and I want to try and get on the good part of the crank, the best part anyway. So I made a little I got a little piece of wood wedged in there just to hold the crank in that position, and the crank is sitting down on these saddles here, so that keeps it moving this way, keeps it where I want. I got my air gap set, plus that bearing on that side helps keep that crank set where it's got to be. So next step, I gotta get my depth mics out and start measuring this crank to see if I need to raise or lower so it'll match that other side. So I'll come back when we get to that point. Alright, well, we're back at this again. Did a little bit of measuring here. I measured the other side, measured this side, and there's my measurements. So this side is approximately 30 thousandths of an inch lower than that side. So what I'm going to do is, I got some shim stock or something. I'm going to put something between that crank and that piece of wood there to raise that up, and I'll keep playing around with it until I get it close. I mean close, if it's within a couple thousandths, that'd be good enough. I got a bunch of different pieces of shim stuff in here, so I'll cut something and make something work. That's the plan anyway. Do a little more playing around here. I get this crank leveled out with the case, then we'll start damming her up and we'll get her poured. Alright guys, we're moving right along here. I got this shimmed up. We're right at 5.401 right now. I don't know if you can see that, if I'm shaking too bad. There it is. Trust me, it's right there. So we go across, and I got the crank. Now, this crank is straight in this case when I measure off this point and when I measure off this point across. So at least the crank isn't cocked in the case anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. This edge here and this edge here keep the crank front and backwards, keeps it centered there. And then you can see my shims that I put in between the board and the bottom of the crank to shim it up. I had to move it up about 35 thousandths, 32 thousandths, something like that. I just kept shoving shims in there until it got her close. So now we're gonna get this dammed up I'm gonna get it poured. I don't know if it's gonna be today or not, but I gotta get some clay packed in around there, and I got enough Babbitt, I got enough clay. I got my little cooker all set up, ready to go, so I mean, technically I could pour it today, but it's getting kind of late now, so alright, I'll keep you posted. Alright guys, well, I'll show you my setup here. That's what I use to pour my Babbitt. It takes like 10 pounds to pour 1/2 of that bearing, maybe like 9.5 or so, but I think it's pretty heavy. It's molten, you don't want to spill it. So that's what I used for that. It's just a frying pan that I put a long handle on. But I got it poured. I don't think it's going to turn out very good. I don't think I had enough preheat on my casting. I had the torch in there preheating, but I don't think it was quite enough, because when I started pouring it, it kind of come about 1/2 or 3/4 of the way around before it started solidifying. I was pouring in this side here. Then I had to hurry up and jump over to this side and pour this side and fill it up. So I don't know how it's going to turn out. I might have to redo this one. We'll see. I didn't have no help today, so I'm trying to preheat and cook Babbitt and do it all at once. Kind of didn't turn out very well. You need somebody over here preheating this, and you can tend to that, and it would go a lot better. But we'll see. It was about 3:30 or so when I poured it. I think I'll let her sit tonight. Tomorrow I'll pop this out of there and we'll take a look at it, see how it looks. If I have to melt that out of there and start over, I guess we will. We'll see you tomorrow.